Suzanne, can you share with us your views on the impact of the federal government's 51% equity definition for women-owned businesses?
Okay.
What does that mean for women in tech growing their businesses? Share your insights with us now.
Okay, well, maybe what I could do, John, is I'll talk a little bit about our history at HRSG. That might give you some context, okay? So we're a business that's been in operation for almost 30 years now. So I started the company 30 years ago, and we have done a pivot lately in terms of going into the tech world and offering human resource management software services, software as a service, basically. And we've gone after funding for the company. And in so doing, what has happened to the company is we've gone after angel investment, equity investment of various sorts. And as a result of that, our company has been pushed from a significant majority owned women's business to less than 51% owned by women. This is a natural evolution in any company. And especially if you are going for funding that is equity-based as opposed to debt-based funding. So in our case, it has had an impact. We did that a few years ago, and before all of the initiatives on the part of the government to go 51%. So we've warned and talked to different groups about the impact of doing that. And the impact is that effectively, if you have trade commissions going overseas for 51% or better owned women's businesses, I'm naturally excluded. Or if you're creating a business directory with women-owned businesses defined at 51%, then we're excluded from those opportunities, even though we have women who are leading the business, in charge, making decisions, etc., like myself and other colleagues at the executive level. Effectively, what's going to happen for women-led businesses in the future is that if you go after funding that's equity-based, then you're going to be impacted. Now, let me talk a little bit about that. So in a sense, the problem gets even bigger because getting equity funding from women-based investors is much more difficult. The research suggests that maybe the investment population out there is about 14%. So if you go after the equity funding, then naturally there are probably going to be more men out there than there are women, especially at the angel investor level, etc. And in a sense, what you're doing is creating while the federal government thinks they're creating an advantage for women-led businesses at 51%, it's actually disadvantaging women from growing through an equity-based funding program.
Well, you know, this is a sort of a stunning lack of understanding of capital markets. You've got some very, I think, solid public policy outreaches to encourage diversity, to encourage women-led, but yet you've got a definition that seems to be antiquated. What's your call to action?
Well, my call to action is for the federal government to understand the implications of the fact that they're actually building in systemic discrimination for women-owned businesses. It's great when you're starting. Maybe you're going to be a one-off like me. Like I started as a single founder. I quickly added more and more people as we moved along. It's great if you're in that position, and it gives you a bit of a boost up early on. But you know, as companies scale and grow, you need funding from different sources. So you're literally reducing the funding pool for women-owned businesses because you're putting a 51% percentage on the ownership number. Now, not all programs actually use this definition. So I'll give a couple of examples. In Invest Ottawa, I spoke to the chair there, and she completely understood my concern about doing this, and they want to make sure that women-led businesses have equal opportunity. So they haven't included that definition. They've talked about it as women-led or women-founded businesses, but not defined it as 51% ownership. BDC is similar. But even in that case, and a recent example is we went after funding with BDC. It was debt-based funding. great. I love BDC. They're really accommodating for our company, but they've asked that we match that with equity. So guess what? I end up getting further diluted if you get male investors coming into your company. So
I think you make a very strong case. And if I could just sum up, because the question you raise is obviously something, a criteria that has to be changed. But I think a bigger question is to the federal government, to the provincial government, to the local governments, are there other criteria that are unnecessarily limiting resources as they flow to support the growth of women-led enterprises and all enterprises that are being created in Canada? Let's have all these agencies ask that question.
Yeah, I think so. And, you know, I've been raising the concern in different forums. I'm not sure everyone completely understands the issue because it's a multi-step issue, right? You can, it's hidden, systemic, unintended discrimination. It's not intentional, I don't think, but they don't think about the consequences of the policy of 51% ownership.